Things slowed down a good bit after our recent confrontation with the Dawn Slayer. Almost half our men were stuck on bed rest, another two were trying to make contact with the Templars, and the rest were on high alert just in case that Advent pursuit craft ever managed to catch up with us. Thankfully, it never did, but more on that later. We were allowed a few precious days to catch our breath and lick our wounds, and our support staff kept making progress towards improving our equipment one piece at a time. First, we received word that the Grey Shirts had finally finished installing the new radio relay at the Truck Thieves' camp in West Africa. After that, Tygan and his assistants finished their research into replicating the basic mag weaponry based on captured Advent designs. Lily seemed quite pleased with the prototypes she had built based on Tygan's designs, and we had ample supplies sitting around after our recent operations, so I quickly handed down the order to start on full-scale manufacturing. Given our recent spate of injuries, Tygan approached me with a special request for an unusually practical new project. Given his success in replicating basic Advent weaponry, he now wanted to see if he could replicate their basic armor as well. I guess he was inspired after hacking up all those armored corpses. Whatever his reason, I gave him my blessings on the project. The spokesman contacted me a few days later with another monthly update. This made, for what, 4 months now? 5? Honestly, sometimes it feels like I'm only really awake for the highlights of my own life, and everything else just speeds by in the blink of an eye. As always, the end-of-month report came with a bundle of Bradford's dire reports about the state of our war against the Advent Authority. Mordena and Dawn Slayer were both working towards shutting down our protection rackets now, but that wasn't much of a surprise. Advent was still working towards improving their encryption protocols, as well as shutting down the black market. But now they were also trying to pull more public support with a renewed propaganda campaign. XCOM was continuing to coordinate with both the Reapers and the Skirmishers. The Reapers were still running support on our covert operations, and now the Skirmishers were also providing us with additional details on how to identify and repurpose captured Advent equipment. Lily Shen had also expressed some concern about how hard we were working her meager engineering staff, and recommended that we use some of the recently cleared space to build some automated facilities to help with the renovations on the Avenger. I still felt a little guilty about how we had, acquired our first engineer, so I quickly signed off on that project as well. While we were occupied with collecting our latest protection payment, we received word that Sergeant Phoenix and Cazador had returned, with someone new in tow. Apparently their meeting with the Templars had gone quite well. Our new friend was named Henrik. I think the rest of the crew was a bit put off by his purple full-body uniform, but for some reason it put me at ease. It seemed familiar somehow. Well, anyway, he put me in touch with the leader of the Templars, some guy who called himself Geist. We spoke at length. Okay, well, he spoke at length, and I mostly just listened. He was definitely a touch on the pretentious and long-winded side, but the important thing was that he seemed pretty gung-ho about our new alliance. Encouraged by this new success, I decided it was time to start branching out even further by reaching out to the resistance cells in South America. But if we were going to start thinking about moving into that region, then we would need to find out more about that Dawn Slayer guy. Mox seemed eager to lead up a scouting team, so I gave him the go-ahead, and he grabbed a couple of the lower-ranking recruits to accompany him on the mission. And after that, it was mostly just mundane upkeep, or as mundane as it ever gets on the Avenger. We finished collecting our latest payment drop, then resumed scanning the region, which quickly led us to another small resistance group for Bradford to victimize. And while Bradford was otherwise occupied, we finally received another call to action. We once again had the opportunity to run interference for the black market, as well as the opportunity to disrupt Advent's new propaganda broadcasts. But the operation that seemed the most pressing was the one intended to disrupt Advent's new encryption program. Since Bradford was otherwise occupied, I quickly dubbed the project Operation Heavy Ring, just to see if giving it a cute nickname would help, and then I headed to the barracks to start assembling a field team. I decided that this was a good opportunity to put our Templar allies to the test, so I assigned both Henrik and Cazador to the squad. But just to be on the safe side, I filled out the rest of the team with more experienced soldiers: Purge Dome, Wajtek Kot, and Raziel Malachi. Operation Heavy Ring. I feel silly even saying that. Anyway, Operation Heavy Ring was a go.
Advent has been operating mobile survey teams from some of their trains in this region. We've located an unprotected terminal connected to their network nearby. The data we're after is critical to the aliens' latest operation, and this is our chance to stop their progress. We'll need to move in and secure the site, remove any hostile threats, and gain control of the access point to recover the data. Menace 1-5, this is Avenger. The access point we're after is just ahead. Move to secure the area. Expect hostile resistance.
Hey, RetconRaider here, and welcome back to Episode 7. Once again, XCOM has been called upon to take down an Advent train. And anyone who's familiar with the game knows that that means we'll be facing off against Advent turrets, in addition to the normal enemy pods. I'm not sure if I really see any ideal approaches here. Enemies could be on either side of the train. But our best bet is probably to get onto the roof here and start moving parallel alongside the train until we get closer to the target we need to hack.
Moving out.
As Templar warriors, my followers specialize in wielding psionic energy, mastering the power that belongs to all who are truly of this earth. Through intense focus, we can twist the very fabric of the world around us to suit our needs.
That's a whole lot of words, Geist. You could have saved us all a little time if you had just said the Templars are psychic.
Double time. Rolling out. Running. I'll lead the way.
Okay, so far so good, though I am noticing for the first time that there's an Advent scanner behind this building. I also have no way of knowing if there's an Advent pod up on top of this roof, so I'm going to need to make sure I'm a little careful on approach. Alright, there's an Advent turret, and there's a Muton. I'm not planning on engaging them this turn, so I'm just going to keep moving the squad up onto the roof.
As you direct. Getting it done. Moving out. On it.
And of course I didn't run with Purge Dome because I want to see if he can hack that scanner. There's no telling what effects it might offer or what his odds of success are, but it's at least worth a quick look. It looks like hacking this scanner will provide a temporary bonus to our aim, but failing the hack will immediately blow our cover, so I think we'll just pass for now.
That's affirmative.
There's another turret. And I can also see that Advent pod moving around at ground level. Hopefully they won't come up here. We're not too far away from where we need to be, so I think we're going to keep walking along this rooftop, and then maybe we'll try to sprint across to the next building. We'll start gunning down these Advent pods as soon as we reach the second rooftop. Yeah, that looks like it'll make a good elevated perch for our gunners. we'll just spend this turn consolidating our squad, getting everyone closer together. That way they can hopefully all make it over to the next building in a single turn.
Moving to Overwatch. Onward. That's affirmative. Stepping off.
Rolling out.
Never sense any disturbance. Overwatch.
Alright, so far so good. Now comes the risky part. I have to sprint across this alley to get to the next building. I'm trying to find an ideal approach here. I don't want to waste too much time maneuvering from building to building. There's the ladder that leads to the roof.
Moving to designated coordinates.
Ah, that muton had line of sight on the edge of the roof. I guess I was out of luck no matter where I tried to move.
Advent troops spotted.
Ah, jeez. I activated 2 enemy pods at once. Looks like a muton and a sectoid, as well as a trooper and a stun lancer. Ah, and that turret can see us too. In fact, both of them can. Excellent. Fantastic. I think I just activated every single enemy on the battlefield at once. A new record. Oh good, there's a mech too. I almost overlooked him. Okay, well, let's see here. This should be fun. Alright, well, first things first, we know that sectoids have a weakness to melee attacks, so let's break out the Templar and start things off with a guaranteed kill.
Ebbs and flows with the tide of combat. As we focus our energy, our power increases and can be unleashed upon our enemies.
Templars always get a free movement action after making a melee attack. That means I can move him back to a safer position, but first I'm going to see what other enemies I can clear off the board. Cazador's in the roughest position here. The only way she can attack someone is by making a blade rush. But that's almost guaranteed to put her into a vulnerable position. Unfortunately, that stun lancer's a high priority target. Ah, of course. When it rains, it pours. Alright, unfortunately that does throw everything else off. The lancer's still in it, so we need to take him down with someone else. But we also need to take out this muton, because otherwise he's going to ruin our day with a plasma grenade. Well, speaking of the muton, let's start with him. I already know what I want to do here, so let's bring the bear down to cover on ground level.
Heading there now.
And lob a grenade up there to blow the roof out from beneath the muton's feet. Friendly fire? What? Oh. Alright, we'll just reposition here.
Get ready for a surprise!
That wasn't quite enough to kill the muton, but it did set him up for a quick takedown with Raziel's pistol.
Heading there now. Target neutralized.
Alright, now we don't have to worry about the plasma grenade. Unfortunately, Purge Dome is our last soldier, so I think it falls to him to try to take out that stun lancer for us. Well, the odds aren't great. It's basically a coin toss. I'm almost tempted to go for one of the other targets instead, but... Very nice.
Enemy down.
And look at all that loot. I guess that new resistance order we're getting from the skirmishers is paying off already.
Got the goods.
And last but certainly not least, let's go ahead and get Henrik undercover now. That Advent mech is almost certainly going to hit us with a micro-missile barrage, so we don't want to cluster our guys too close together. Okay, well, that was a lot of damage, but... Oh. Well, I took my chances, I paid the price. Sorry, Cazador.
The invaders move against me.
At least we managed to evade the incoming turret fire. Now let's see what we can do here. Henrik's melee attack isn't strong enough to take out either of these guys in one hit, so we're going to need to wear them down a little first. Now I have to be particularly wary with two turrets still in play. Like sharpshooters, those things can fire on you from any range, as long as they have line of sight, and you can be seen by another enemy unit.
Fire in the hole.
That did a decent amount of damage to the Advent Trooper, and it knocked off all of the mech's armor, but unfortunately it also created a lingering cloud of acid. That means we can't take them out with Henrik's melee attack, so instead we'll have him focus on those turrets I'm worried about. Oof, okay, well, light flesh wound there. I didn't realize it was on Overwatch. And we just activated a third enemy pod.
Commander, we have confirmation of the exposed access point.
Looks like a sectoid, a stun lancer, and I see another mech on top of the train there. Well, let's keep picking away at these guys. Raziel's got a pretty good angle on this other turret, so let's take the shot. No luck there. I guess we can't all be Karn. That just leaves us with Purge Dome, and I think his priority target's going to be that acid-bathed mech.
Position confirmed.
There we go.
Kill confirmed.
Now let's just move Henrik under cover before we end the turn.
The path is clear.
Welcome back, Cazador. It's good to see you again, but I wish it were under better circumstances.
That didn't feel good.
No more deaths, but we've got a couple of soldiers who are pretty close to it. Okay, well, let's start by picking someone off with Henrik. There we go. That's another enemy off the field. Just 3 more to go. Only a 55% chance to hit, but I guess we'll have Raziel take a shot at this stun lancer. Well, the odds weren't great anyway. Okay, I think our best bet is to flank the stun lancer and take him out from the side. But to do that, we're going to need to get this mech to ease up with the suppression fire. I'd also like to grab that loot before it blows up, but I don't want to get too close to that zombie. Well, we'll just hold position and take a shot at the mech. There we go. It didn't kill him, but it did knock him off suppression fire. So that frees up WOTC to hopefully kill this Lancer.
Moving to designated position.
Just enough damage to finish him off in one shot.
Enemy eliminated.
Alright, let's get Henrik back under cover and see what they do.
I trust in your command.
Well, that trooper has decided to drop dead. That's a bold strategy. I approve. But I don't approve of whatever the heck that sectoid is trying to do. Okay. Right.
I'm taking fire.
At least we were just outside of the zombie's movement range. Well, we need to get Purge Dome back, so first action's obvious. Take out that sectoid. And then there was one. Unfortunately, Raziel can't get a visual on the mech from where he is. And we need to focus on getting Purge Dome over to the Advent computer. So let's see if WOTC can finish off this robot.
Good copy. Moving on target.
Well, I guess I can't blame him for being rattled. Well, we'll just need to try something else. I do still want to try to grab that loot before the end of the turn. Now, if I could just find a spot where I can see... Ah, there we go.
Rolling.
Nice. And Purge Dome finishes off the mech with his new mag rifle. And now that we know there aren't any more enemies, we can afford to scoot back over here and pick up that loot.
I've recovered the item.
At this point, there's still a chance that enemy reinforcements might show up, but otherwise I think we're in the clear, so we'll just start moving over towards the train and try to hack that computer.
Closing on target position now. Back in. Confirmed. Agreed. I will sense any disturbance. Moving. They keep these trains running around the clock, but you'll never see them loading or unloading any cargo. At least not where anyone can see it. Scanning. Positive confirmation. Area secured. Orders confirmed. On the move.
There we go. Visual on the target computer. Well, I wouldn't mind going for the facility lead, but the odds aren't in our favor, so let's just go with the easier of the two. And we missed it anyway, but at least we got what we came for.
I'm in. Status confirmed. All hostiles are down and the area is secure. Status confirmed. Mission accomplished.
Even now, our enemy lurks in the shadows, plotting to destroy all we have built, to return us to the chaos of the old world. Only together can we oppose them. United in the Elders' love for us, we shall prevail, no matter the cost.
You're bumming me out, Speaker. Sorry, Cazador. We barely knew you. But on the bright side, promotions! Now, of course, Purge Dome will be grabbing Medical Protocol. And the Bear will be grabbing Shredder. And then Henrik. This is where it gets a little interesting. The first perk I gave him lets him give up his free move after making a melee attack, to instead automatically deflect the first attack made against him afterwards. And his new options are Overcharge, which gives him a small chance of gaining extra focus after making a melee attack, Pillar, which lets him spend focus to create temporary cover, Stun Strike, which lets him spend focus to potentially stun an enemy, and Fortress, which makes him completely immune to all DOT and explosive damage. Yes, please. So, Operation Heavy Ring had been a success. Advent's networks were disrupted, their new encryption programs were destroyed, and we even pulled a large amount of salvage off that train we had captured. Sure, we had lost Squatty Cazador in the process, but I was having a hard time feeling bad about it. Maybe I'm still emotionally detached from my time in the tube, or maybe giving the operation a cute little codename actually worked. Or maybe it was just that Cazador was a total psychopath who never washed the blood off her face. I mean, seriously, she always had blood all over her face. Where did it even come from? Well, I guess it doesn't really matter now. Cazador was our first soldier to be killed in action, though she would be far from the last. I quickly buried myself in busy work, catching up on the latest batch of messages that had been forwarded to my personal computer. There was a message from the Warlock Dawnslayer. I think he was trying to make me question my allegiance to XCOM, but his unpleasant demeanor made it pretty easy to brush him off. After that, there was another message from Bradford about how Advent was accelerating their Avatar project at an alarming rate, so I made a quick note reminding myself that we should probably look into it at some point or another. Then there was a message from Preytal Mox. Apparently his team had made good time, and they had confirmed that Dawnslayer had some sort of hideout in South America, so if we were going to expand in that direction, then we'd probably have to do something about him. Betos was particularly exhilarated by that prospect. Apparently she had a real thing about the Dawnslayer. Not in a romantic way, but more of a kill-it-with-fire kind of way. Having met him myself, I can't say I blame her. She was so happy with our progress that she offered us all sorts of new support. Since Bradford had actually steered me in the right direction once or twice, and I don't say that lightly, I decided to indulge him once more. I wasn't ready to take direct action against Advent's mysterious new project, but I decided it couldn't hurt to send some of the men on a covert mission to interfere with it at least a little bit. Now, I didn't specify how they should do it, but since Karn was the one who volunteered to head up the operation, I have to imagine it probably involved collecting blood and skulls or something to that effect. Best not to ask. After that, it was down to the research labs to check in on Tygan. He'd been disturbingly quiet lately. I half expected to walk in on him while he was dissecting his lab assistants or something. Thankfully, it turned out that he had just been busy with that new armor project. The new Predator armor actually looked pretty promising, so we forwarded the design to Lily Shen to put it into full-scale production. And after that, he surprised me by pitching a new project intended to help us build a proper infirmary more efficiently. This was a side of him that I'd never seen before. Was he actually expressing genuine interest in the welfare of his coworkers, or did he just want more medical tools to play with the next time I let him hack up an alien corpse? As with many things, I decided it was best not to ask. I just approved the request and moved on. After that, it was down into the bowels of the Avenger to briefly inspect our new engineering workshop. Apparently, our engineers could use the facilities here to accelerate their renovations of the Avenger using some sort of worker drones that Lily had built. It was a useful facility, but we were starting to push the Avenger's power supply to its limits, so I quickly put the new drones to work excavating one of the damaged alien power coils. Hopefully that would present us with a quick and elegant solution to our power problems. And after that, it was back to scanning the region. Bradford was still avoiding me, but at least he was keeping himself busy. I got word that he had just returned with some more salvaged goods, but at this point I decided it was just best to give him some space to himself. Surprisingly, he actually opted to reach out to me shortly after he returned to the Avenger. Apparently, on his recent expedition, he had spotted that pursuit craft that had been hounding us over the past couple of months. It had touched down to resupply, and he felt this was a good opportunity to turn the tables on them. I knew what he really wanted was to loot the ship for everything it was worth, but I couldn't really argue with his logic. The pursuit craft did pose a direct threat to the Avenger and everyone on board, so I reluctantly approved the operation, which he cheerfully dubbed Operation Ghost Prince. This time it was likely to be an uphill battle. The pursuit craft was heavily manned, so we were going to need some of our best soldiers on the squad. For something as momentous as our first UFO takedown, both Dragonova and Mox insisted on being present, so I made them the core of the squad and rounded out the rest of the team with some of our other veterans, including Sergeant Phoenix, Sergeant Altex, and Corporal Capesh. I'll admit, as terrifying a bunch of murderers as they were, I was really starting to get attached to at least some of them. I found myself genuinely hoping that none of them would end up as our next KIA.
Resistance operatives working out of this area managed to disable a grounded UFO. We're deploying near their last position to take control of the site. Neutralize all hostile contacts and seize whatever cargo you can get your hands on. Menace 1-5, UFO site coordinates locked in. Move to secure the area, neutralize all hostiles.
They won't see us if we stay
These two are
quiet.
working together like a well-oiled machine. As long as we keep them close to each other in the field, they'll reap various tactical benefits as their bond continues to grow.
Now this brings back memories. War of the Chosen brings a lot of interesting new mechanics to the table, but if there's one thing that I really miss from the previous games, it's shooting down and raiding enemy UFOs. Now, it's been a while since I've done one of these missions, but if memory serves, we need to get as close as possible to that enemy UFO before we leave stealth. Because once the enemies know we're here, they'll put out a distress signal, and that'll start up the timer.
I'm on the move. You can never escape
Well,
my
that was
sight.
quick.
What would appear to be a single entity is actually a swarm of tiny robotic units working in close coordination. to maintain a cohesive form.
I definitely don't like the looks of that pod. 2 Vipers and some sort of new enemy. Now, I haven't fought one of those guys before, but I have watched some of the promotional material, so I know that they can apparently turn into some sort of bullet-resistant gas, and they can also clone your soldiers. So we'll definitely want to tread lightly as we start moving into an ambush position.
Moving to designated coordinates.
On the move.
I'm on it.
Watching comes
Got it
natural.
covered. Non-EV. Scash.
Okay, well, apparently they decided to hold still, so that does make this a little easier. Let's just spend this turn getting a little closer, and then next turn we'll start the ambush. Hopefully we can take out this whole pod in one fell swoop.
I will go. I have sight beyond vision.
Rolling. Closing on target position now.
To that position. Rolling.
Scanning.
I'll keep an eye on it.
Overwatch.
I will not overwatch.
What was that noise? Well, I'll just assume it was the sound of the UFO settling. I've got more important things to focus on anyway. First, let's get the Claymore in there.
Soon our prey will fall.
And Dragonova could set it off without revealing herself, but I think we're going to go for some double explosion action here. Perfect. Vlad is just within range to get this party started.
Bombs away! We're in their sights.
Well, we lost some loot, but more importantly, we took out both of those Vipers. I think that's a fair trade. Unfortunately, that Spectre seems to have survived, so I guess we've got to worry about him now. Okay, can we get Phoenix into a flanking position? Actually, scratch that. I think Altex is in the perfect position for a blade rush. And problem solved.
What did you expect?
Okay, now we just need to keep moving up towards the UFO.
Yes, Commander. Attacking on sight.
I can't help but notice that no timer has started, so maybe that's something they've changed in War of the Chosen. I certainly won't miss it.
No one will cross.
Menace 1-5, we just picked up an outbound signal coming from the UFO. It's some kind of distress beacon. You need to get inside that ship and shut down the signal before they send their whole fleet after us.
Well, that's what I get for opening my big dumb mouth. Guess we're on the clock now, so we're gonna have to speed things up a little.
Position.
I think we'll move Dragonova all the way up next to those doors, so she'll be ready to take a peek inside next turn. But let's bring everyone else up first.
Heading out!
Moving. I'm on it. On the move.
Overwatch.
I am on watch.
Overwatch. No trespassing.
And now it's time to breach.
Vault says I am to obey. The target is marked.
Ah, well, they were much closer than I had anticipated.
Our resistance contacts had heard rumors Advent might be rolling out a heavy infantry armor system. Looks pretty tough.
Well, at least their initial scatter put some of them in ideal kill positions. Just need to be careful where I put my guys. Obviously, I'm not going to have Altek's Blade Rush the Purifier, so let's see if he can take out that shield bearer in one shot. Very nice. So much for Advent's new heavy armor support.
That's right.
Next, we need to prioritize taking out this Purifier. That should be easy enough, but first I'll have to move Dragonova away from him, just in case he decides to explode.
I am at your service.
Okay, now that Dragonova's clear, I can take a shot with, let's say, Mox. He can make up to 2 attacks a turn anyway, so if he takes out the Purifier with his first shot, he can take a second shot at the Advent officer. Nice, but I think we could stand to dole out a little more justice.
No one escapes. I did nothing.
Don't be so hard on yourself, Mox. You just took out that guy's only cover, so I think we've got this. Let's bring Vlad up and...
I'm on the move.
Okay, not a kill, but that does set up Phoenix to dole out a finishing blow.
On the move.
And that's 1 point for Phoenix.
X-ray neutralized.
Ooh, I hope that wasn't an important part of the ship. Alright, well, since the battle didn't end, which I guess would have been asking for a bit much, that means there's still at least one more enemy pod lurking around here somewhere. So I think we need to switch over to Dragonova, get her back under stealth, and have her start scouting out the interior of the ship.
As you order, Commander. An alien patrol. I know where
The power
you
supply
are.
on this ship is likely to be a newer variation of the Illyrian core driving the Avenger's systems.
And there they are. Hopefully the last pod on the map. It's a pretty heavy squad, too. One of those new Spectres, a Stun Lancer, and an Advent Shield Bearer. Let's see if we can bring the rest of our soldiers a little closer without getting spotted. That way we'll be ready to spring an ambush on them next turn. We do need to take these guys out pretty quickly because we've only got 4 turns left on the timer. Now I could start things off right now by lobbing a grenade in there and hitting all 3 of them, but the rest of my guys aren't in position, so I think that would be a bad idea. We'll hold off for now and just start moving the rest of the squad up behind this wall. Maybe we can put that window on the south side to good use.
Absolutely.
A 10th battalion.
Moving to position. Moving to
Alright boys, prep for contact.
on Overwatch.
Well, it looks like they decided to hold completely still too, so I guess we'll go ahead and get things started. Now, if I could just get the grenade cursor to... There we go.
Throwing grenade!
The time for hiding is over.
Okay, let's take a quick moment to check all of our relative positions here. Then we can start considering our options. Well, his chances to hit are pretty low, but let's see if Mox can start off by taking out that stun lancer. Very nice. Can he follow up by getting a quick hit on the Spectre? No, but that's fine. Taking out the Lancer was enough. Next, I think we'll have Altex take out that shield bearer. Yeah, he can do that and still stay in a relatively covered position. And that just leaves us with the Spectre. Nice, Phoenix can move into a flanking position near that window, so let's go ahead and take a shot from there. Well, not quite enough to finish him off, but hopefully Dragonova can get the job done. Now, I'd like to keep her under cover, but I guess getting a flanking shot is more important than maintaining cover at this point.
I go where I'm needed.
I wouldn't mind getting a closer look at their flight computer. Ours could probably use some updates.
For the Reapers! We can no longer hide.
Alright, and since there was no alien turn, that means there's no more pods on the board, so let's get that distress beacon disabled. Now let's see here. I don't really care about accelerating our current tech research. That's going to be done in a couple of days anyway, so I might as well go for the Resistance broadcast. Hey, and we managed to get it too. That's great. It'll make up for some of the money we lose every time the Chosen crack down on one of our Resistance cells.
We've knocked out the alien distress signal. Looks like the skies are quiet. Status confirmed. Mission accomplished.
Advent officials announced an increase to this month's recruitment quotas. Citizens are encouraged to voluntarily visit their nearest recruitment center. Remember, only together can we build a better tomorrow.
There's even one Reaper left standing. You can bet they're still in the fight. Finger on the trigger.
Promotions! Alright, well, scanning protocol can be useful, but I think in this case we're going to keep med-specking. More healing during battles is always useful. And again, conceal can be situationally useful, but I think I prefer the overall flexibility offered by run and gun, so we're going to go with that one. And Vlad will, of course, pick up Suppression. That's always a useful ability. Now Mox. Wow, Mox has 27 ability points to work with. His new abilities are Whiplash, which gives him a free attack. That's always useful. And Full Throttle, which gives him bonus mobility after getting a kill. That's a little less useful. And then he's got that Grappling Strike, he's got Zeroed In, which is bonuses for taking consecutive shots at the same target, Total Combat, which gives him a little more flexibility with grenades, and Reflex, which, honestly, I don't really like the sound of that one at all, so I'll just ignore it. It's a pretty safe bet I'm going to grab Whiplash. I always like abilities that grant free attacks. And he has enough points to unlock another ability, so... You know what, I've been having a lot of fun with Justice, so I might as well get his counterpart. Let's pick up Wrath. Well, all things considered, Operation Ghost Prince had gone much more smoothly than Operation Heavy Ring. I guess the lesson I learned here was to always let Bradford choose the stupid codename. Bradford was ecstatic, of course, and I'm pretty sure I saw him practically rolling around in a big pile of alien crystals before I headed back to my quarters to get some rest. I had a lot on my mind. It had been almost half a year since they had pulled me out of that tube, and I'd crossed a lot of lines since then. I'd sent soldiers to their death, I'd directed the slaughter of Advent peacekeeping forces, and now I was even implicit in the destruction of an entire Advent airship and its crew. Really, at this point it was too late to turn back. For better or worse, I was committed to our cause. So, maybe it was finally time for me to start giving some serious thought to raiding that Advent Black site that Bradford and the spokesman had been warning me about over the past couple of months. Sure, it would be crossing another line. But really, at that point, how could it possibly make anything worse?